Emma Wilson arrived at London Heathrow Airport feeling very tired. She had just finished an important job in Manchester. Her dark curly hair was tied back, and she wore comfortable jeans and a jumper. All she wanted was to go home to her small flat in West London, where her cat Percy was waiting for her. Emma stood by the big turning belt that brought out everyone's bags. She looked at messages on her phone while waiting for her black suitcase. She didn't see Officer Robert Parker watching her from across the busy airport hall. His eyes were narrow and full of doubt. "Excuse me, miss," he said in a voice that was too loud. "I need to see your ID and boarding pass." Emma looked up. She noticed how Officer Parker had walked past many other people to stop her. She kept her face calm, even though she felt that familiar bad feeling inside. "Of course," she answered quietly, giving him her papers. Officer Parker looked at her passport for too long, checking every page. "And why did you go to Manchester?" he asked. "Business," Emma said simply. "What kind of business?" he pushed, his voice showing he didn't believe her. Emma saw how his eyes kept looking at her dark skin. She noticed how his body changed when he heard her speak with her perfect London accent. She had been through this many times before. The surprise, the doubt, the extra questions that no one else seemed to get. "I was there for work meetings," she explained calmly, looking straight at him. Officer Parker's radio made noise, but he ignored it. He was too busy trying to make Emma feel uncomfortable. "I need to see more ID," he said. All around them, other travelers picked up their bags and walked freely to the exits. None of them were being stopped or questioned. Emma took a deep breath. She knew exactly what was happening. It wasn't the first time, and sadly, it probably wouldn't be the last. But she had learned long ago how to handle these moments with grace. "May I ask why you need more ID?" she asked politely. Her voice was steady, but inside she felt a mix of tiredness and sadness. "Airport rules," Officer Parker said sharply. His hand rested on his belt near his radio, a small show of power. Emma reached into her bag. Her fingers touched her special work ID, the one that would end this situation in seconds. But she paused. Sometimes it was better to let these moments play out, to document the pattern for later. A young family walked by, the parents giving curious looks. An older man frowned as he passed, sensing something wasn't right about how Emma was being treated. "I've been traveling all day," Emma said, her voice still calm. "Is there something specific you're concerned about?" Officer Parker's face hardened. "Just doing my job, making sure everyone is safe. Some people need more checking than others." The way he said "some people" made his meaning very clear. Emma stood a little straighter. She had worked too hard, solved too many difficult cases, and helped too many people to be treated this way. But fighting back with anger never helped. She had learned that lesson years ago. "I understand you have an important job to do," she said, her voice kind but firm. "Safety is my concern too, actually." Officer Parker looked confused by her calm response. He had expected anger or fear. Emma's suitcase finally appeared on the belt. She reached for it, but Officer Parker stepped forward. "I'll need to check this as well," he said. A small crowd had started to notice what was happening. Two airport workers at a nearby desk were whispering to each other, looking concerned. Emma checked her watch. She was tired, and Percy was waiting. She had planned to let this situation continue, to document one more case of unfair treatment. But sometimes the best teaching moments came from a different approach. "Officer Parker," she said clearly, reaching slowly into her inner jacket pocket, "I think there's something you should see." The airport lights shone on her calm face as she prepared to reveal who she really was. Sometimes the best way to change minds wasn't through conflict, but through an unexpected moment of truth. Officer Parker waited, not knowing his entire view. Of Emma Wilson was about to change forever. Emma looked at Officer Parker with steady eyes. "May I ask why you need more identification?" she asked in a polite voice. She already knew why he was asking, but wanted him to say it. Officer Parker's face got hard like stone. "Security rules, miss. Unless you have something to hide." Emma opened her handbag and took out her driver's license. As she did this, a small black notebook fell onto the floor. Officer Parker quickly bent down and grabbed it before she could. "What's this?" he asked with a pleased look. He started flipping through the pages without asking. Notes about airport security? Very interesting. Those are private work notes, Emma said in a firm voice. Her patience was wearing thin. Please, give me back my property. Not far away, an old couple stopped walking. The grey-haired woman whispered something to her husband while watching Emma and the officer. A young man with round glasses pretended to check his phone, but his eyes kept looking up at what was happening. You seem to have quite an attitude, Officer Parker said, his voice getting louder. People nearby started to look over. Maybe we should continue this talk in the security office. Emma took a slow, deep breath. In her mind, she thought about her choices. She could show him who she really was right now and end this, or she could let this continue to collect evidence of how Officer Parker treated people. The second choice might help other people who face the same unfair treatment later. I've answered all your questions and shown you 2 forms of ID, she said calmly. Her voice was clear and steady. If you have real concerns about my travel, I would like to know what they are. Officer Parker's face turned a dark shade of red. I make the decisions here, he snapped, putting his hand on her suitcase. This bag needs to be checked. Based on what good reason? Emma asked. She stood tall, not backing down. More travelers had stopped now. Some pretended to check their phones, but they were watching. An airport cleaner paused with his mop. 2. Flight attendants in blue uniforms whispered to each other while looking over. That's it. Officer Parker's face was now completely red with anger. You're coming with me for extra screening. Not doing what I say is a security problem. Emma noticed. A young woman with red hair quietly holding up her phone, recording everything that was happening. Good, Emma thought. Evidence. The tension in the air felt thick enough to touch. Officer Parker grabbed the handle of Emma's suitcase. This way, he ordered. Emma did not move. Officer Parker, is it normal to check through private notes without permission? She asked. Her voice was calm but loud enough for others to hear. People were staring now. No one said anything, but their eyes showed they knew something was wrong. I don't need your permission, Officer Parker said. But he looked less sure now that he had an audience. An airport announcement echoed overhead about a gate change, but no one in the growing circle of watchers seemed to hear it. All eyes were on Emma and the angry officer. Actually, you do need permission or a warrant, Emma said. The words came out clear and strong. Years of training had prepared her for moments like this. Officer Parker stepped closer to her, trying to look bigger. Are you telling me how to do my job? Emma did not step back. I'm telling you about the law, she said simply. A security camera above them turned slightly, its red light blinking. Emma noticed it and almost smiled. More evidence. That's enough. Officer Parker grabbed her arm. It wasn't hard enough to hurt, but it was definitely not allowed. Security office, now. Several gasps came from the watching crowd. The red-haired woman with the phone moved closer, still recording. Emma looked at Officer Parker's hand on her arm, then back up to his eyes. The moment stretched between them like a wire pulled tight. Remove your hand, she said quietly. Each word was like ice. Something in her tone made Officer Parker blink. He hesitated, but his hand stayed on her arm. Emma reached slowly into her jacket with her free hand. I didn't want to do this here, she said, but you've left me no choice. The watching crowd leaned forward slightly. Officer Parker's eyes widened as Emma's hand moved inside her jacket. No one in that airport lobby could have guessed what was about to happen next. Officer Parker pulled on Emma's arm, trying to lead her away from the crowd. This way to the screening room, he said. His voice was loud but shaky now. Emma stood firm. The moment had come to end this. She had seen enough. Officer Parker, she said in a clear voice that everyone nearby could hear. I think we need to handle this situation properly. She slowly reached into her inner jacket pocket. The officer's eyes grew wide. The watching crowd held their breath. Some moved back, not knowing what would happen next. Emma pulled out a small leather wallet. She opened it carefully to show a shiny badge and ID card. I'm Special Agent Emma Wilson with the National Crime Agency. I think we should discuss this in a more professional way. The change in Officer Parker's face was almost funny. First came shock, then fear, then shame. His mouth opened, but no words came out. His hand, which had been holding Emma's arm, dropped away as if her jacket had suddenly become hot. I was just following the rules," he finally managed to say. His voice had lost all its power. "Were you?" Emma asked quietly. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were serious. "Because I've been watching you for the last half hour while waiting for my bag. You haven't stopped anyone else for extra questions." The people watching started to whisper. Some nodded, having seen the same thing. A tall man in a security uniform walked quickly toward them. He had a kind face and grey hair at his temples. "Agent Wilson," he said with a smile of recognition. "Is everything okay? We worked together on that big case in Manchester last year." "Hello, Tom," Emma said with a small smile. "Just a small problem, I think. But I'd like to talk with you and Officer Parker in private, if possible." Officer Parker looked like he wanted the floor to open up and swallow him. His face was now very white, and a drop of sweat ran down his forehead. The crowd that had gathered started to move away, but many still watched from a safe distance. "Of course," Tom said, giving Parker a hard look. "We can use my office." As they walked through the busy airport, Emma felt a tiredness deep in her bones. This was not new to her. Even with her important job and all her success, some people would always see her skin color first. Being a special agent didn't protect her from this kind of treatment. "This way," Tom said, pointing to a door marked Security Management. Emma noticed the young woman who had been recording was still watching. Their eyes met briefly. Emma gave her a small nod of thanks. Sometimes having proof made all the difference. Officer Parker walked with his head down, not looking at anyone. His shoulders were bent, and his steps were heavy. Inside Tom's office, the air felt cool after the heat of the public confrontation. Tom closed the door and pointed to chairs. "Please sit," he said. "Agent Wilson, I'm very sorry about this." Officer Parker stayed standing, his back against the wall. He looked like a schoolboy waiting to be punished. "I'm not here to make trouble," Emma said, sitting down. "But we need to talk about what just happened." Tom nodded. "I saw most of it on the security cameras. I was coming to stop it when you showed your badge." Officer Parker finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "I was just doing my job, keeping people safe." Emma turned to look at him directly. "Were you?" "Because your job is to find real dangers, not to harass travelers who look like me." "I didn't," Parker started to say, but then stopped. He knew she was right. "In the 30 minutes I watched you," Emma continued, "you stopped 3 people. All of them had dark skin. All of them were treated differently than the other travelers." Tom sighed heavily. "This isn't the first time we've had concerns about Officer Parker's judgment." Parker's face flushed red again, but he said nothing. Emma opened her notebook, the one Parker had grabbed earlier. "I made some notes while I was watching. Times, descriptions, what was said. I wasn't planning to make this official, but I can, if needed." Parker looked up, worry clear in his eyes. "Please, I have a family. I need this job." Emma studied him for a long moment. Was he truly sorry or just sorry he got caught? It was hard to tell. "I don't want your job," she said finally. "I want you to do your job better." Tom leaned forward, in his chair. "What do you suggest, Agent Wilson?" Emma thought about all the times this had happened to her, all the times it had happened to others who couldn't show a special badge to make it stop. "Training," she said. "Real training about bias and fairness. And maybe Officer Parker should work with someone for a while, someone who can help him see when he's making decisions based on the wrong things." Tom nodded slowly. "I think that's more than fair." Officer Parker looked up, surprise on his face. He had expected worse. "Thank you," he said quietly to Emma. "Don't thank me yet," she replied. "The hard part comes next. You have to actually change." Emma sat in Tom's office. Across from her were Officer Parker and a woman she hadn't met before. "This is Margaret Phillips," Tom said. "She's the head of airport security." Margaret was a tall woman with short grey hair and kind eyes. She nodded at Emma. "Agent Wilson, I've heard good things about your work." Emma smiled slightly. "Thank you." Officer Parker sat with his shoulders hunched, looking at his hands on the table. The room felt tense. "I'm not here to make an official complaint," Emma began. Her voice was gentle but firm. "But we need to talk about what happened out there." "Officer," Parker kept staring at his hands. "I was just doing my job," he said quietly. "Were you?" Emma asked. "Because your job is to find real security threats based on how people act and good information, not to stop people because of how they look." Margaret leaned forward in her chair. "Agent Wilson is right, Robert. We've talked about this before." Parker's face turned red. "But—" "No buts," Margaret said firmly. "This isn't the first time." Emma reached into her bag and took out her tablet. She tapped the screen a few times and opened a file. "I work in counter-terrorism," she explained. "These are the real signs that show someone might be a security threat. Look carefully. None of them mention skin color or race." She turned the tablet so they could all see the screen. It showed a list of behaviors and warning signs: avoiding eye contact, sweating more than normal for the temperature, wearing clothes too big for the season, checking exits repeatedly, leaving bags unattended. "These are the things you should watch for," Emma said. "Not people who look like me going about their day." For the next hour, Emma showed them numbers, facts, and real cases. She didn't speak with anger. She spoke with a real wish to help them. "Understand, when you focus on people who look like me," she explained, "you miss real threats. You also make regular people lose trust in police and security. That makes your job harder in the long run." Officer Parker finally looked up. As Emma spoke, something in his face began to change. The hardness in his eyes softened. He was really listening now. "I never thought about it that way," he admitted in a quiet voice. "I always believed I was keeping people safe." "I believe you. Want to do your job well," Emma replied. "That's why I'm having this talk instead of filing an official report." Margaret touched the tablet screen, looking at the information. "This is very helpful, Agent Wilson. We've been working on a new training program about spotting when we make choices based on hidden feelings about people. Would you consider helping us? Your knowledge would be so valuable." Emma hadn't expected this. She was tired. She wanted to go home to Percy. But she also knew that real change didn't happen unless people worked for it. "I'd be happy to help," she said with a small smile. Tom, who had been quiet, spoke up. "This could make a real difference, not just here but at other airports too." Emma nodded. "That's what I hope." Officer Parker had been quiet for a while. He looked at Emma with new eyes, not with anger or shame, but with something like respect. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Of course," Emma replied. "How do you not hate me right now?" Parker asked. "I treated you badly. I've probably treated others badly too. How can you sit here and try to help me?" Emma was quiet for a moment. "It was a good question. Because hating doesn't fix anything," she said finally. "And because I think you can change, I think you want to." Parker nodded slowly. "I do. I really do." Margaret made some notes on her pad. "We could start the training next month. We'll need to work out the details." As the meeting ended, they all stood up. Officer Parker hesitated, then held out his hand to Emma. "I'm truly sorry, Agent Wilson," he said. His voice cracked slightly. "I want to do better." Emma looked at his hand for a moment, then took it. His grip was firm. "That's all any of us can do," she said. "Try to be better tomorrow than we were today." As they left the office, Emma felt something she hadn't expected: hope. Small changes could lead to bigger ones. Maybe what happened today would help not just Officer Parker, but many others too. Outside the office, the busy airport continued its constant movement. People rushing to gates, families reuniting, workers doing their jobs. Most would never know about the small but important change that had just begun in that quiet office. 6 months passed. Emma stood in a large training room at Heathrow Airport. 30 security officers sat in chairs facing her. Robert Parker sat in the front row, looking very different from the angry man she had met half a year ago. The room was bright with morning, light coming through big windows. Charts and pictures hung on the walls, showing the right ways to spot real security risks. "Today we finish our final class on recognizing unfair bias," Emma said to the group. Her voice was strong and clear. "And I'd like to ask Officer Parker to share his story with all of you." Robert stood up. He looked confident and calm. His uniform was crisp and neat. He turned to face his fellow officers. 6 months ago, Agent Wilson caught me treating passengers unfairly, he began. I was stopping people because of how they looked, not because of how they acted. When she pointed this out, I felt embarrassed and angry. The room was very quiet. Everyone was listening closely. But Agent Wilson didn't try to shame me or get me fired, Robert continued. Instead, she taught me. She showed me a better way to do my job. He picked up some papers from his seat and held them up. I've kept track of my work for the past 6 months, he said. Using the proper behavior signs we learned in this class, I've gotten 60% better at finding real security problems. And the best part, no one has complained about me since I changed how I work. The officers in the room nodded. Some wrote notes. A few looked surprised at the numbers. After the class ended, Emma and Robert walked together through the busy airport. The same airport where they had first met under such bad circumstances. We're starting this same training next month at Gatwick and Manchester airports, Robert told her proudly. Some officers from those places are here watching today. Emma smiled. That's really good news. They passed by the luggage area where they had first met. Emma noticed a young woman wearing a hijab being approached by a security officer. The officer smiled politely as he checked her documents, then quickly moved on to check other travelers too. The officer was treating everyone the same way. That's James, Robert explained. He was in our very first training group. He's one of our best now. As they reached the main exit doors, Robert stopped walking. He turned to face Emma. I've been wanting to ask you something, he said. You know, you could have reported me that day. You could have gotten me fired. Why didn't you? Emma thought about his question. The busy airport moved around them. Families, hugging, workers rushing, announcements calling out gate numbers. Because changing one person doesn't fix the whole system, she finally answered. But one changed person can help change the system. Robert nodded slowly, understanding. Thank you, he said simply. You changed more than just my job. You changed how I see the world. They walked outside together. The famous London rain had just stopped. The sun was breaking through the grey clouds, making the wet pavement shine. Emma looked up at the patches of blue sky appearing between the clouds. She thought about how progress happened in the world, not all at once, but slowly, one small break in the clouds at a time. As she said goodbye to Robert and headed home to her flat and Percy the cat, Emma felt a deep sense of peace. The work wasn't done. It would never be completely done. But today the world was a little better than it had been 6 months ago, and sometimes that was enough.